Okay, we just hit start. This is our new game. We are going to be dropping in on the Earth-like planet because it's most fun playthrough. Now, if we double-click the Earth-like drop pod, we will be thrown at a planet. So turn the HUD on there with tab. We have landed. Oh, what a lovely day to land on the North Pole. Ah, look, there are like 4 trees in the distance. Brilliant. Anyway, once you land, you're going to want to do a few things. First of all, look around to see if there are any ores directly around you, because you will have an ore detector on this ship that will detect ores around. You've landed on an ore patch, you are lucky, and it will tell you. Like, this is telling me there's ice here. I mean, there's quite a lot of it, so not the most helpful information, but that is what ores will look like. You have your toolbar on the bottom. 1 brings up your welder, 2 grinder, 3 drill, and then the rest of the blocks are as you can see them on the bottom. If you then put away whichever tool you've got out, or whichever block you've got in your hand by pressing 0, you can then left click on this cargo port here, and that will show you the inventory. Now, here's an important thing about the inventory. You will need to change it. When you're looking at a ship, you want to be looking at this sort of cube one here, so you click that, and that'll show you all the inventories on that grid. What you'll want, because we're on a planet with loads of oxygen, which is lovely, you'll want to take the hydrogen bottle. Oh, I just moved that hydrogen bottle by shift-clicking it. Shift-clicking will move 100 of a thing, control-clicking will move 10 of a thing, and then double-clicking will move an entire stack. So I'll just demonstrate that here. Control-click, shift-click, double-click. But as you can see there, it doesn't keep it in stacks. When something gets moved into your inventory, it all gets bunched up. It's not like Minecraft where you can drop like 3 of the same thing in different inventory slots. You just have a volume for your inventory, and everything gets sorted out automatically when it gets put in there. It's lovely. From this menu, you can see there's a gun. We won't need that yet. Actually, the pistol's not very useful. That's mainly for if you have wolves on, or spiders, depending on where you land. It wouldn't be much help against the spiders, though. There is an important side note. If you die, which I will demonstrate by committing seppuku, which, by the way, that was backspace, and then backspace to bring up the suicide screen. On this view, you'll want to be clicking on the little helmet picture, because that will show you everything in the backpack. If you click on the cube, it's not a grid, so nothing will show up. But you click on the helmet, there it is. A lot of people who have hundreds of hours still forget that from time to time. Your survival kit, it's powered off a battery, so let's see how much power the battery has. We have enough power for 2 days, 48 hours. Those are real life days, real life hours as well, so that will do fine. Obviously, when we start using stuff on here, it will use the energy quicker, and the batteries will drain quicker. It's not really 2 days. Okay, brief side note, I did realize that there was an issue with picture quality, and I have fixed it. So, continuing on with what I was saying, now it's time to get started. Now, I showed you your toolbar earlier. Now, if you press G, you bring up the blocks menu. This is where you can select what you're going to build. Start with, we will want a survival kit, because we're going to move it over. You see the plus next to the survival kit. Up here, you can see the other blocks that you can scroll wheel through. So if I hold it out like this, I can scroll through and it will show me the other blocks on that list. This is really useful because otherwise you fill up an entire toolbar with just the same things, basically. Right, so that will be the basic assembler that we'll need for our little base. We will also need wind turbine. Just double click them to get them down to your bottom bar, or right click them. But if you right click, it will overwrite. If your toolbar's full, it will overwrite whatever you've got selected at the minute. If you hold control and hit the numbers, 1 is the toolbar you're seeing now, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you won't see the difference. I haven't put anything in them yet. But it is not just one toolbar, you have 9 of them. I typically always have my armor on 4, and these are the basic armor shapes that you can scroll through. This one's like 45-degree angles, this one's slopier angles, all the things to do with that. this one's the angled slopey ones, and this one's the blocks they made to fit between the angled slopey ones and the slopey ones in different areas. Very scientific that, but it is useful. So, when you start, you are going to need to dig up stone and put it in the back of the survival kit. Like here, I'm going to click the Q button, which shows all the inventories on the grid. Not really necessary, but it's good to have it always pressed so you can see what's going on. It's becoming nighttime, which is going to be great for YouTube compression. But up the top here, you've got loads of tabs. So your control panel, which lets you go into the settings for all the blocks on the grid you're looking at. Production, which is what your survival kit can make. Brilliant, because I need it to make a lot of ingots, basically just forever, but there's no way of looping it for the survival kit, I don't think. Nope, no way of looping it for the survival kit. So, it'll make ingots, but to do that it needs stone, so I need to put stone in it. Now if I had other cargo containers on this ship, it would suck the stone out of those cargo containers and take it to where it needs to be, so you don't actually have to manually put it in the right tub, which is very useful. Now, I've spawned in a really bad place for stone. I mean, there's stone up there, but yeah, this ice hopefully shouldn't be too thick. I mean, this is snow. There is a difference, because there is ice in the game, and it's thicker and you get more ice when you mine it. Snow isn't very dense, so when you mine it, you get a lot less of it than if you're mining ice. Ice looks a lot bluer. Now, if we turn our head torch on, because we're going to go underground, and then use right click to mine, right. So you want to dig down past the snow until you get to stone. You see this? Kind of a subtle difference, but you can see it's a slightly different texture. This is shinier. This is light blue ice because we're in mountain. This up here, I'll demonstrate. So if you mine the snow at the top, you will get boulders of 43 and 19. Not a lot. And if I make a similar dent in this, you get 3 boulders of much higher sizes. 165 was one of those. So the deeper you mine, it's not the deeper you mine. So if you're mining top layer stuff, which is white, or when you're mining stone, it's the dirt layer. You get stone from the dirt layer, but you don't get as much of it. You want to dig deeper and get to the stone. I really want to dig deep enough. I don't start in mountains normally, so I'm not entirely sure how deep I'll have to go for this stone. That's already quite deep. Oh, there we go. Stone. Lovely stone. If you press V, go in third person. Not great because I'm in a hole. But if you hold Alt, you can look around without moving your character. But if you let go of Alt, you can actually just keep mining. So I am going to now stop right-click mining and left-click mine to gather resources. It's also worth noting that when you're gathering a lot of resources like this, you're basically just mining for ages. You can double-click and it will continuously mine. I'm not touching my mouse at the minute, and it's continuously mining. You can do the same with right-click. Probably what I should have done to get down here, but I didn't. A good way to go. A lot of people mine and just let it fall behind them. If you hold F whilst you're mining, you'll also get a lot of stone. You also want to be crouching when you're mining, because that way you're less likely to accidentally dig back up, and it gets the drill closer to the voxel, to the ground here. So when you destroying it, you actually destroy slightly deeper into it and get more resources. So if you hold F here while you're mining, you'll pick up most of it, which gives you a good indication of how much you've got in your inventory, because you can see the little blue bar there on the bottom. My inventory is filling up quite nicely. Now, if I stop mining there, there should be a few rocks that got past me that I can pick up on the way back up. Oh, not a lot. Now, you do have a jetpack, but it's always good to dig in at an angle so that you can climb back out if you run out of hydrogen. Your jetpack runs on hydrogen, I don't think I mentioned that, which is fueled, it gets constantly refueled by the hydrogen bottle we picked up earlier. So that's great for us at the minute because we've got a load of hydrogen. And we've got ice, which we can put in an O2H2 generator, which we've got on the side of the ship here. And that will get turned into hydrogen and oxygen when there's available slots for it. Like, if I've got an empty hydrogen bottle or an empty hydrogen tank on the ship, it will get turned into hydrogen and oxygen and fill them up. Really useful because flying around is so much easier than walking around when you start to build bigger stuff. Let's just put these in here. Now, the start of the game is a little slow. Quite nice, you get to know your surroundings a bit while you're waiting for stone to refine. I'm going to come back once I've got enough resources from the stone to start doing more stuff. Start building a little base. Now, I've done a couple of trips down to the mines. I don't actually have a lot of resources on me, but what's slowing me down is that every time I go down there to mine, I come back up and I have to hold a bunch of stone in my inventory because I can't fit it directly in the block because it doesn't have very much storage space. Now we can fix that by building a cargo container on the back. So if I get cargo, I look for the one with a little plus on it because that will cycle through all of the cargo containers I can build. Get that. Put it here. I'm going to use a medium cargo container because, as you can see, the conveyor port on the back of that will line up with the conveyor port on the back of that. Now, I need an interior plate to build it. And on the right here, when you're holding a block in your hand, you can see all of the components it will need. But you will need one of whatever the bottom component is to place the structure of the block. So I'm going to set the survival kit to make an interior plate. Any second now. Really, any second now. Whee! Right. Interior plate. Now from this screen you can hit inventory and it will take you directly to the survival kit inventory. Useful. Right, now I've got the interior plate, I can put it down there. Now, here's a really useful tool that a lot of people who have had the game for ages don't use because they either don't know it's there or think it's complicated. It's actually really simple. If you get out a welder, look at a block that you haven't finished welding up yet, and you right click on it, you can kind of see there it says components added to build planner. If you hit G, you can see your build planner in the bottom right. It says all of the components that we'll need to finish that cargo container. Now if we look at a cargo port on a ship and then shift middle click, it says all components were successfully put into production. So now that's set that survival kit to build every resource we'll need for it. It looks like we'll have enough resources to do it. On here you can see how many resources your construction queue here needs. And here you can see how much you've got in the survival kit. Just wait for all of that to finish building. I'll go and get another round of stone. You can get really far in this. Like really, really far. Really big builds. And you can trace it all back to these little mines that you've dug right at the start. There's the problem again. I can only fit 8k in there, but I can hold 10k, so I have to wait for it to drain. Luckily, it's finished my construction queue. Now, instead of taking it out manually, if you just get your welder out, middle click on the conveyor port, it will withdraw all the components you need for that block, and then weld it up. And boom, there you go, we've got some extra storage on the survival kit. Now, our goal at this point should be to make a little base. Power on this little drop pod won't last forever. Now, there are a few issues with this. One, we need to find cobalt. Cobalt is something that you can't get from refining stone, but it is needed for construction of more advanced tools like proper assemblers. So that is what you really need to find in the early game. At the minute, we're just gonna get a little basic assembler running with a wind turbine. We actually make a fair bit of progress without too many trips. And this is why we set the inventory to be max, because if you set the inventory to be lower, you'll have to do a lot more trips down into these little mines that you dig. It's just an all-round nicer experience to have the max inventory size for yourself. There you go, much more efficient. F is the normal interact button, although you can do normal interactions with an empty hand just by clicking, but normally you'll be using F. And look at that. I've filled over half of this container already, which means that it is being incredibly useful for us. It's actually going to take quite a while to get through all of that. So, we can butt in to the construction queue with, say, 20 steel plates. You can click and drag to change priority. I want that to be done first, so I drag it in front. What we're going to do now is build a little basic assembler and a wind turbine. And then we're going to use that to upgrade our little pod to be easier to control. Then we're going to see if we can go and find some cobalt. Now ideally you want to be looking for cobalt in the day, because it'll be easier to see the ore patches. But when you don't have a choice, you don't really have a choice. Though it looks like, because I'm at the North Pole, it's going to be daytime. I mean, the sun started, what, there? So it's going to be day. It is going tonight, but not much I can do about that. Right, so if you get out of block, if you look at your ship, it'll be small grid. If you press the number again, large grid. If you put the large grid so it's half in the ground, well, at least some part of it is in the ground, when you place it, it'll become a static grid. Now, if you hit Shift B, you can snap it to gravity so it's completely flat. Now, I may have built that a little far away, but if I now add a basic assembler, like so, remember this is just on the survival kit block, but I've scrolled through to the basic assembler. Now, the block rotation is kind of complicated, and there's no real way to learn it. You'll just get used to it. But it uses the insert, home, page up, page down, delete, and end keys. Just sort of get used to it. But it rotates around. There are tooltips that you can activate, and they will be in the top right, and they will show you which way each button's going to rotate it. But it won't take you too long to get used to it. Now, if we build a little tower up here, because wind turbines need quite a bit of clearance to allow a lot of airflow. I misplaced one here, so I can grind that down. Now, notice that I've placed a whole bunch of armor blocks here, and if you look at them whilst welding, you need 25 steel plates to fully weld it up. You can just leave it as a structure like this, where it's only using one steel plate for the basic structure. And that's what we'll do on this really cheap tower, because we're not in any danger here. Well, I say that. Hopefully we're not in any danger here. If we do suddenly get shot by something, I'll be impressed, because it's an offline game at the minute. You can fly all the way up here and forget what you were going to talk about. So if we do the build planner thing again, we get our welder out and we right click on there, and we right click on the wind turbine as well. We can set everything we need to be built. And no, it doesn't have to be the conveyor port on the survival kit. You can do it on any conveyor port. And then shift, middle click, and it's going to build everything we need for that. We will leave the armor blocks as just structural for now, rather than actually welding them up fully, because we don't need to. Do we have enough resources? We do! Oh, that's nice. When you upgrade to a basic assembler, it will assemble the same item but faster. And when you upgrade to an actual assembler, faster again. And when you've got an actual assembler, you've got module slots, so you can add speed modules, power efficiency modules. For the refineries, you can add speed, power, and yield modules. But we haven't got to refineries yet, so we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves there. We will just wait for all this to be done. Luckily, you don't have to, because I will just cut and it will be done. In the bottom left, you can see we've got a little plus symbol, that's your health, O2, oxygen, a lightning bolt, that's your energy, and H2 is hydrogen. can see the little bottle above the H2 bar. So it says I've used 51% of my hydrogen, but if I do completely deplete it, which I'm not going to do because it's going to take a while, it will just refill directly from the bottle without me having to do anything. Mid-flight as well, so it's really not something I have to worry about. But the energy is getting quite low. That's because I've got my torch on. And I've been using the welder. The welder uses power as well. So, to recharge that we've got a few options. One, I can look at this screen on the survival kit and hold F. And that will slowly recharge me. But I do have to hold F for that. And as you may or may not know, I'm lazy. If we go around to the chair, hit F on that, we can sit on that, and we will just get charged up through the chair, which is lovely, although we don't really want to think about where that charging lead is. Anyway, fully charged back up now, and I imagine... Wow, nope, just really quite slow. We are so nearly there. Oh. You'll see the jump of speed, the pure speed we get when we upgrade to a basic assembler, although that should be at least all of the components for the basic assembler. That looks like the components for the wind turbine that aren't quite finished yet. We can weld you up. Well, hey, basic assembler, although I have no power at the minute. I come over here, two computers. Successfully withdrawn! Lovely! And now, we have power. You want to use a wind turbine rather than a solar panel because wind turbines can generate power all through day and night. So you won't suddenly get cut off when it comes to night time. By default, nights are 2 hours. No, nights are an hour long, so just, you know, you don't really want to get caught out for an hour. So, I am going to move all of the ingots across. Ooh, 1.4k iron already. That's not bad for a start. Right, so what do we need next? Next, we will need a little refinery. Now, normally what I do is I find cobalt and then make a base there. But cobalt shouldn't be too far away because ores usually spawn... The way ores spawn is all around us. It looks like some discoloured snow over there, so that might be an ore patch. As I said, I don't spawn on mountains very often. If so, though, that might be an ore patch right there. I'll go check it out with my drill. Oh, magnesium! Oh, lovely! Magnesium is incredibly useful. A bit later on, or if you've got enemy AI mods, it's useful really early. Need magnesium for guns. Well, for ammo for guns anyway. But this is really good. Good that we've got some already. Is it all magnesium, this patch? Oh, this is a pretty big patch. Oh, nickel. Silicon. You can't tell, they are popping up in the corner of my screen there as I'm flying over them. I've got the drill out. You need the drill out to be able to see them because the drill has an ore detector on. Silicon, nickel and magnesium. Well, that's not bad. And as you may have noticed, my hydrogen bottle just refilled my hydrogen there. Mid-flight, so I didn't drop out of the air or anything. Very nice. Right. So I, as a sciencey person, well, you'll get to know the chemical symbols or the elemental symbols for the ores in this game fairly quickly because you'll need to find them. Right, I've gone to the GPS tab here, and it's not really necessary in this case because I'm just like 100 meters away from base. But if I do new from current position, it makes a new GPS called Captain Adder 1. I click over here, an unknown signal appears. No, it doesn't normally. If I click over here, I can rename this to MG for magnesium, SI for silicon, Ni for nickel. This is the best way to remember what's where. Ooh, unknown signals. I think I just about have time to show that off then. Unknown signals. Oh, it's one of the annoying ones. This is an unknown signal that will attempt to run away from me using that atmospheric thruster down there. Oh, but I got it. I got it immediately. I'm just that good. Right, unknown signals drop around the place. And this is how you unlock new skins. You'll see one button has a little sort of GPS tag on it. Press that button with F. Try your luck to get a new special item. I've got a slime welder. Actually, I don't know if I've already got that or not, so that might actually be good. And that's how you get all of the items, all of the skins, which you can change in a medical bay, which we can't afford yet because that's expensive. But later on, trust me, that's gonna pay off. Maybe. You always want to grind these down to get the resources from it because it is free stuff. There is also a cargo container on here, which has space credits, which we're not going to use because we don't have the economy on, and a little bit of resources. That's quite a lot of interior plates actually, which is quite useful. Means we'll be able to double up on the wind turbines fairly soon. Ooh, there is actually something that I forgot to mention. Despawning grids is a problem, but it's not a bug, and it's not just how the game works. There are settings for it. Now, I recommend when you start a game, you hit Alt F10, because you'll be the admin. You can do all of this admin stuff, just ignore it for now. Go to Trash Removal, and Suspend. Now, you can fine-tune in here what you want trash removal to be set as. Unless your game is incredibly laggy, you can just turn it off, and so long as you don't have a whole bunch of modded AI spawns, you should be fine for your entire game. If you do have a bunch of modded AI spawns, you can go through the entity list. Look, I've literally got 2 grids right now, which are my respawn pod and my base. You can go through, you can sort by block count, and you can delete anything with only like 2 blocks. It's fairly simple to server manage. Right, we've now got this working. What we'll need next is a refinery. See, I had enough steel plate to just place the structure down there already. Now that's going to need quite a lot of stuff. Now we've got all, because it's a refinery, a basic refinery at that, because we can't afford a regular refinery yet, we're going to be able to construct everything we need in a basic assembler. But if we want to upgrade to the next tier, we'll need metal grids. And metal grids require cobalt, as you can see there in the middle when I'm hovering over the metal grid. I don't have any cobalt yet. But we do need a refinery to refine the cobalt ore. We actually have enough resources. We do have enough resources. How much faster it constructs components as well. It's beautiful. So much nicer than a crappy little survival kit. I love you, really. No. That said, we do need the survival kit to survive, which is a fair point. We've now got power on this grid, so we need to move the survival kit across, because we are going to use this respawn pod as a scout ship once we've modified it a little bit. Or a miner, actually. Either way, we are going to need to move the survival kit. Now, I place the survival kit on here. Now remember, we only need one of the first component to place it. Now, this will need more components than the smaller survival kit, but it will need the same amount of medical components. So, once we brand that survival kit down, we will have enough to build this survival kit. First, let's build this refinery. Ooh, lovely and fast. Okay, let's add that to the build planner and put those components into production. Cancel medical components because we won't be able to build them. Everything else should be built nicely. I'm going to use my jetpack and drill to go and check out that ore patch over there. However, if you look in my inventory here, you'll see that my oxygen bottle is now on my hydrogen bottle is now on 79%, because that's how much it went down by when it refueled my hydrogen. Go and check out this ore patch. Hopefully it's got cobalt in it. Oh, look at that. Straight off the bat. Cobalt. I'm going to make the GPS here because I really don't care about whatever else is here. I found cobalt. That was a lie. If there's iron here, it'll be much easier to build stuff, because I won't have to mine stone for iron. A lot more cobalt. It would be great if we found some iron. I'm gonna head back though. Any other ore patches along the way? Oop. There's one all the way off in the distance over there. Right, that is everything from this. Right, over to now. Do that. Now these blocks are linked onto these blue blocks and onto this medium cargo container. So when I grind down the survival kit, it shouldn't fall off. That said, I'm just going to empty the survival kit quickly because I think it still has, yeah, got some stuff in it. Now when I grind this down, it'll just leave an empty space. Lovely. No, I think that'll work. You don't need the O2H2 generator to be hooked up to cargo, really. We'll build another one soon enough. Right, and to cancel something from your build planner, you can just right-click it. We don't need that survival kit on there anymore. We now have the medical components, and it's all done. Now, even if you shift middle mouse on a survival kit conveyor port, it will take your build queue to the highest level of assembler that it has. We've almost got all of our stuff built already for that. Now, I am going to jerry-rig the little spawn ship to be a miner. But I'm going to go and check this out over here. Ooh. Always remember to check how much hydrogen and energy you've got before you leave. I don't have any energy, so I am going to come and recharge it real quick. Now if I check my hydrogen, 58%. I'm going to refill my bottle as well before I go. Also, I'm probably going to empty most of this stuff out into the base, so that if I do find iron, I can mine it. Right. An issue is I don't have a cargo container. So, if I build a cargo container here, just a regular small one, if I hit 6 again, it'll change it to its large grid variant, and place it on there. Now that needs quite a lot. I've put those components into production, but that will in fact need metal grids, which needs cobalt. So I am going to go and grab some cobalt. Now, the more watchful among you may have noticed I did not empty my inventory or refill my bottle. I should have enough, it should be fine. Now, a lot of these do get to be quite deep. They're not normally this deep in vanilla, but I believe this is because we're on the side of a mountain. I'm also now thinking that I may not have made this hole very climbable. Oh well. We have hit cobalt! You know, because it's blue! Yes, let's pick up some cobalt. Now, I always make the mistake of picking up too much cobalt and it gums up my refinery, so I have to manually load stuff. I'm not going to get too much. How much have I got? 1.3k. That will probably still gum up my refinery. Never mind. Now I've got my cobalt, I can put it in the refinery. Let's put stone in the refinery and it will refine much faster than it would in the survival kit. Now this will refine and get us a good amount of cobalt. We only needed 4, so we've already got enough. Now I can just weld this up. And then Alt middle mouse, dump all of my components in there. Yet it will keep my hydrogen bowl in my inventory. And I'll call it there for this episode. Next episode, we'll continue to advance. We'll get assembler and a refinery. Video after that, I will probably be making a purpose-built miner and giving tips and tricks around that. That's all for today, so I will see you next time.